Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Autos Gaming here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about what hand traps are. This was an idea given to me by a friend of mine known as Dead Zone, and in this video, we will be going over what hand traps are, why you need them, and in what order should you craft or get hand traps in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. First, the question is, what are hand traps? Hand traps are a series of cards that are discarded, well, in their most basic form, are a series of cards that typically yield some type of interruption when used. Basically, it's used to disrupt the opponent's play. Why are they necessary? They offer a lot of different things. They offer a lot of different effects based on the metagame. Currently in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, Max C, the card you now see on screen, is at 3. This card has been banned in the trading card game, the game outside of Asia, for basically since 2013. And this card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel is a staple of almost 99.9% of decks you will play. Unless you are playing a deck that can literally not fit hand traps, you should almost certainly include this card. Max C says, during either player's turn, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. This turn, each time your opponent special summons a monster, immediately draw one card. So, if you're facing something like Zodiac, Trident, anything that's spam heavy, like even what I play, Go Talkers, you want to chain Max C when they start to spam like crazy, because you gain so much value off this card. This card effectively says, opponent ends the turn, or you go plus 25. And for those who know anything about card games and how they are played, going plus 25 effectively means your opponent loses the game if you go plus 25. Because you have gained so much card advantage, it's gonna be a it's gonna be a rough time to get out of. This is by far the first hand trap you should craft if you are planning on playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Craft a full playset. This thing is needed. Then we'll go on to some other hand traps, such as Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Another staple card that says, when a card or effect is activated that includes any of these effects, and then the effects are listed below, you can discard this card, negate that effect. So it basically says your opponent has a spell trap, monster effect, or something. Wait, no. No. It says, add a card from deck to hand, special summon a monster, or special summon from the deck, send a card from the deck to graveyard. You can negate any of those 3 effects. This hand is a secondary must craft. And if you haven't seen my previous tips video, you can get one very, very easily by going to the shop and purchasing the beginner bundles. But this is the second hand trap I recommend you craft. After Max C, this is the most important. Other than, we get to Infinite Impermanence now. This card, it's a trap card. But why is it considered a hand trap? Well, Infinite Impermanence says, while you control no monsters, while you control no cards, you can play this trap from your hand and negate its effect, and negate an opponent's monster's effects until the end of the turn. And if it was set, which this part's less relevant, but it could come up, if it was set before this effect is activated, negate any spells and traps that would be in the same column. So you place this in the center of the 5 slot zone, 5-slot board. On the other side of the 5-slot board, your opponent's spells would not be able to activate in that zone. The reason this card is good, though, it's a free, well, not free, but it's a negate from hand, mainly used as disruption to slow down your opponent. And it also is versatile, because you can set it as a card and still get the same effect plus. So, Infinite Impermanence, probably the third I would recommend you craft, because Infinite Impermanence is a staple of any modern Yu-Gi-Oh deck. I myself run 3 of each Maxi, Ash, and Infinite Impermanence. Next, we come to Nibiru, the Primal Being. If your opponent during the main phase, if your opponent normal or special summons 5 or more monsters, this turn, quick effect, you can tribute as many monsters face up on the field as possible, and if you do, special summon this card. It gives your opponent a token with some beefy attack points, but the reason this card is good is, let's say your opponent, I don't know, what's a good example? Say your opponent has a full board of Access Code, Firewall Dragon, of course you would have stopped this already, but Access Code, Firewall Dragon, Dark Templar, or Ignister Dark Templar, like, a full board of just broken monsters, right? This card says, when they hit their 5th summon, just stop them dead in their tracks. That's what this card says. It's pretty much an essential card for going second. This is a going second card you definitely want to have. It's almost instant speed. Actually, it is instant speed. That's a quick effect. No, it's instant speed removal for a problematic board. This card is an essential card if you're playing going second decks, especially, because it just gets rid of problematic boards. It's what is known as a board breaker. It breaks down problematic boards. It shuts down the big boards so you can get back into the game. This card is an essential card. Next, we go to the Effect Veiler, which is during your opponent's main phase. Quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, then target one effect monster your opponent controls. Negate the effects of that monster, or of that face-up monster your opponent controls until the end of this turn. Reason this is good. People spam effects in Yu-Gi-Oh! While it's not as good as Ash Blossom, it has some cases where it's actually better than Ash. Because people tend to spam, and I mean spam, effects in Yu-Gi-Oh! I myself probably resolve, I want to say, close to 40 effects a turn on a good hand. This card shuts me down in my tracks. This card is a very good card. Now, I wouldn't say it's as important as Maxi, Ash, and Impermanence to craft. However, it's probably about on equal footing as, like, Nibiru and, yeah. I mean, because, like, Ash really is the major one you're gonna want. So Ash and Maxi are the first two you craft. Nibiru and Effect Veiler, they kind of come after the Infinite Impermanence, because Infinite Impermanence is just a staple, same with Ash and Maxi. I mean, this card's just broken, this card is needed for modern Yu-Gi-Oh!, and this card is just a staple. Effect Veiler and Nibiru, you can play the game somewhat reliably without them. Next, we go into Sci-Frame Gamma. Sci-Frame Gamma. When your opponent activates a monster effect where you control no monsters, you can special summon both this and the card from your hand, Sci-Frame Driver, from your hand, deck, or graveyard. If you do, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that monster. So, reason this is good, it's effect negation plus summoning. Do I really have to explain it? You negates your opponent's ability to do something, and then you summon something off of it. Yeah, it's a good one. This one probably comes right after the Veiler and Nibiru, but definitely comes before DD Crow and Drolenlock, because both DD Crow and Drolenlock, well, they are good. They are very situational. If a card is added from the main deck to your opponent's hand, except during the draw phase, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. For the rest of this turn, cards cannot be added from either player's main deck to the hand. Actually, this card shuts down Max C. Yo. That might actually be crafted by me later. But basically, Droll Lockbird comes before DD Crow. This card, apparently, if I'm reading this correctly, can shut down Maxi. Not only that, if your opponent were to say play Goki, with Goki, Octostretch, and Headbat or whatever, they have search effects. They can just add cards constantly to their hand, drawing whatever they need. With this, you say no. Or another example. With Cynet Codec. This card ruins my day. I'm just gonna be dead honest. This card would stop my strategy in its tracks. DD Crow, well, not super relevant now because Destroyer, Phoenix, Enforcer isn't in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. This card banishes a card from the graveyard, and for something like Yu-Gi-Oh! For just something like Destroyer, Phoenix, Enforcer, who resummoned itself at the end of every turn, banishing a card is very good. And yeah, I mean, that really sums up all the hand traps except for the honorable mention cross out designator. Well, it's a neg 1 to shut something down. It's actually not that bad because you declare one card name, banish one card of the declared card from your hand. So if someone max C's you, right? You have a max C in hand and you have cross out designator. Cross out designator with max C sent to the graveyard, negate their max C. It's not bad. There's better options for now, but I could see this being a very decent hand trap if the format were right. So, with that being said, and even though it's not a hand trap, it's a quick play spell, but same difference pretty much. That being said, oh, and of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't go Called by the Grave. This one, for DPE, and all the effects like Ash, if you want to negate Ash, get Called by the Grave. This card doesn't let those cards resolve and negates them from being used that turn. Other than that, though, that's why hand traps are important. Now, what order do I recommend you craft these in? Well, first and foremost, Maxi, always 3. First and foremost, that's what you craft. Then Ash Blossom. Then Infinite Impermanence. Probably then Nibiru or Effect Veiler. That one's really depending on the type of deck you're running. If you're running a more combo-heavy deck, you probably want Effect Veiler. If you're running a control deck, you want Nibiru. Next, then comes then comes Sci-Frame Gamma. This card comes after those two because it's still better than situational hand traps like Droll and Lock and DD Crow. Then probably Drollin Lock, because this thing just shuts down Max C. So, and then of course we have DD Crow. While not really that relevant, and you could probably have uh, Called by the Grave over it in the current meta, I would recommend picking him up for when Destroy Phoenix Enforcer and other cards like it get added to the game. That being said, though, guys, I hope that helped. If you liked the video, like, comment, subscribe, and share it with your friends. And yeah, that'll be it for me today. Peace.